Hello, today I'll be showing you how to work with VMware for the PC. First, we will make a 10 gigabyte drive. Second, we will attach the drive to the virtual machine. The third step, we will create a simple volume of 5 gigabytes on the drive. Step 4, we will convert the drive from a basic disk to a dynamic disk. Step 5, we will extend the simple volume to add 2 gigabytes more of space. In the last step, we will use diskpart.exe. This will be run to extend the disk to use the remaining 3 gigabytes of free space. This is the what VMware workstation looks like when you first pull it up. I will be doing all this work on my server O1. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Then we'll begin with the first step of adding the 10 gigabyte drive to this. To begin this, you have to have your virtual machine shut down, and then in the devices menu you will see hard disk. You can double click that. It will bring up the virtual machine settings. Make sure hardware is clicked, and then we're going to click add. Go ahead and allow the program to run if you have to. And this opens up the add hardware wizard. We're going to be adding a hard disk. We'll make sure that's selected. Click next. Now right here you have a couple different options. The one we're going to be using is create a new virtual disk. You can have the option to use an existing virtual disk, which you'd want to do if you were wanting to mess with the settings of one that you already have installed on the virtual machine. And you have the option to use a physical disk. And what this is instead of making, let's say, an imaginary hard drive, which is what we're doing, this would require you to actually have a physical hard disk to hook up to the computer. So we'll go ahead and make sure create a new virtual disk is selected and click next. And this is where you select your disk type. There's two types here. One is IDE, which is an older format. The one that is already checked is the SCSI, and what that does is allows the hard drive to make its commands more faster, whereas the IDE is a little bit slower. And we'll go ahead and click next. This is where we're going to specify our disk capacity. Right here it says maximum disk size gigabytes. We're creating a 10 gigabyte drive. It says you have a couple different options here at the bottom to allocate all disk space now. After you select the amount of gigabytes you want your disk to be, at the bottom you have a few options. You can select to allocate all disk space now, which we're not going to do because we want to create volumes on the disk. You can store the virtual disk as a single file, and if you do that, all you have to worry about is one file, but the larger your space comes, the larger of a file you'll have. We'll be using split virtual disk into multiple files, and what this does is instead of having one large file, you will have multiple small files, and it makes it easier if you have to transfer the files over to another machine in case of like a hardware failure. It just reduces the downtime in getting the machine back up. Go ahead and click next. Here's where you tell it where you want to save it to. I'm just going to leave it as the default. We'll click finish. And you can see here in the devices menu that our new hard disk was added. It's a 10 gigabyte hard disk. Go ahead and click OK. Close out this window. Now for the next step of creating the volumes on the disk, you have to have your virtual machine powered on. And go ahead and make sure my server O1 selected and power on the virtual machine. Now my virtual machine's loaded up. We're going to continue on with step 3, which is creating a simple volume of 5 gigabytes on the drive we just made. There's a couple different ways to get to your disk manager, but the one I'm going to be using is to open up your start menu, go to administrative tools, and then click on computer management. Go ahead and allow it to give it permission to run if you need to. And this brings up the computer management screen here. Over on the left side, we're going to be clicking storage, and that'll bring up the option for us to choose disk management. When you click on this, it brings up the disk management snap-in. Here you can see the drive that we had created. It has 10 gigabytes of unallocated space, but if you notice, it is offline right now. We have to right click on it, click online, and then once you bring it online, you'll notice that it says it is not initialized. It means that the computer recognizes that it's there, but it's not initialized to save anything on it yet. So we'll go ahead and right click on it again, click initialize disk. Now this brings up the initialize disk wizard. You can see here you can select if you had multiple disks you wanted to bring online, you can go ahead and select them all. We just have one, and here you have two options. Use the following partition style for the selected disk. You have MBR, which is already checked, and with the MBR it's master boot record. Then you have your GPT. GPT is not recognized by all of the Windows versions, and it's only recommended that you use it if your disk is larger than 2 terabytes. Ours is just 10 gigabytes. We're going to go ahead and use what's most widely used, and that is the MBR. Go ahead and click OK. Now you can see that it says we are online. Next, we're going to create a simple drive on the disk of 5 gigabytes, a simple volume, I'm sorry. Right click on our unallocated space, and this brings up where you can select new simple volume. We have other options, but they are grayed out right now. So go ahead and click on new simple volume. It brings up the simple volume wizard. Go ahead and click next, and this is where you specify your volume size. You have to specify your volume size in megabytes, not gigabytes, and we're going to be creating a 5 gigabyte volume on this hard disk, so we're going to go ahead and type in 5,000 megabytes. Click next, and this brings up where you can assign a drive letter or path to your drive. Assign the following drive letter is already selected, and this is what we're going to be using. You can change the drive letter if you like. I'm going to go ahead and select T. There's no wrong choice there. You choose whatever you prefer. The second option is to mount in the following empty NTFS folder, and if you click that, you can either type in the folder name or browse to it, and what you have to do is you would have to create a new folder, and using this method allows your users to see a folder that is named instead of a drive path such as drive C here. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of that. And the last option is to do not assign a drive letter or drive path. If you do this, then your drive will not be visible to anyone on the computer, and then they'd have to key into it manually from the run command. I'm going to go ahead and check assign to the following drive letter and click next, and this brings up where you format your partition. You have a couple different options here also. The first one is do not format this volume. If you don't format it, then it's not going to be able to store stuff on it. Format this volume with the following settings already selected. The file system is NTFS. Your other option is FAT32. It is a slower type of file system, and it also doesn't support larger files like NTFS does. We'll go ahead and select NTFS. Allocation unit size, we'll leave that at default. If you change these around, some of them are not compatible with file and folder compression. And then the volume label, that's just where you name it. I'm just going to go ahead and name it default 1. You can choose to perform a quick format, and what that does is it formats it, but it doesn't do error checking on it. And you can enable file and folder compression also, and that will let your users compress the files from the server. And go ahead and click next, and then this lets you review your settings, make sure you have everything how you want it, and go ahead and click finish. Now you can see now that the 4.88 gigabytes is formatting. It's going on to step number 4. Convert the drive from a basic disk to a dynamic disk. Go ahead and right click on your disk 1, the disk we created, and then in the menu here you'll see convert to dynamic disk. And then if you were wanting to convert more than one, you could go ahead and select them all here, but of course you'd have to have them installed on your virtual machine. Go ahead and select OK. This just tells you that the disks that are going to be made dynamic are shown. Disk 1 is there, it will convert it. Go ahead and click convert. If you get this pop up, it just tells you that you will not be able to install operating systems on dynamic disk because they do not handle boot files. As long as you're not planning on storing an operating system on this disk, go ahead and select yes. Now you can see here by the color code that this is our dynamic disk and this is still unallocated. You can also see here that disk 1 is dynamic. Now we're going to be doing step number 5, which is to extend the simple volume to add 2 gigabytes more of space. I'm going to click on the part that has already been used. We'll right click, go to extend volume, brings up the extend volume wizard. Go ahead and click next, and this is where the box where you select your disk. Only right over here is your available side. And you can see that it's already put disk 1 on the selected side for me. And then down here at the bottom it shows you how much volume size you have, the maximum available space that is left, and then where you key in the amount of space you would like to extend it by. This is also in megabytes. We're going to be extending it by 2 gigabytes, so that would be 2000 megabytes. Go ahead and click next. It confirms our settings. Go ahead and click finish. And you can see here that is now 6.84 gigabytes, and we have 3.16 gigabytes of unallocated space. Okay, this is the diskpart.exe command prompt. The first command you want to type in is list volume. And that will show you what they are, and if you remember that I labeled my drive T, you can see that is volume 0. I'm going to go ahead and type select space volume 0 to select that volume. You can see that volume 0 is the selected volume. I want to extend that, so I'm going to type extend space size equals, and this is in megabytes again, not gigs, so we'll type in 3000 for 3000 megabytes. And you can see that this partition successfully extended the volume. And go ahead and type exit, open up our computer management again, and now you can see that we're at 9.77 gigabytes, whereas before this we extended this, we were at 6. And this concludes this video.